I want to go back in time to the beginning of the Idaho case. So, are you going to come with me? Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. I want to talk about something that was a huge deal in the beginning of the case that I don't see a lot of people keeping to now that we have a lot of new information. Now, I would like to address the newest breaking news. Guys, whoever thinks that it's a shock or a surprise or it's just so interesting that Bethany Funke is being called as a witness in this case, unsubscribe. It's not shocking. She lived there. Her name is in the probable cause affidavit. She was the girls' roommate. Why wouldn't she be called as a witness? Now, there's still a lot of questions around Bethany's story, but honestly, there's a lot of questions around both her and Dylan's story because we haven't heard from either one of them. And honestly, all the stuff with Dylan is all being assumed and all these additional details are being added to it. But the only truth that we actually have here is a very small portion of the PCA where her timeline of hearing things and opening the door and hearing things again and reopening the door. That's all we have heard from Dylan. And it hasn't even been directly from Dylan. So of course, Bethany is going to be a witness. There's a million things that still need to be answered. And one of those things is if she was even actually there at the time that the murders took place. Now, I know that we don't put a lot of anything really into News Nation, but one thing that has been talked about is the fact that whenever the police were there and crowds were beginning to form outside of the house with the neighbors trying to figure out what in the hell was actually going on, that's where Bethany was. She wasn't in the inner circle. We've talked about this. I feel like I've said these exact same words before. She was not in the inner circle where Dylan would have been as someone that was being talked to by the cops. She was out in the onlooking crowd outside. So of course there's going to be questions. What time did she leave the house? Is it possible that she left after these murders possibly took place and she didn't notice and she went somewhere else and showed up after she realized that 911 had been called to her place of residence? Possibly. Could she have left within just a few minutes or even an hour or so after they got home around 2 o'clock and had been completely gone before the murders took place? Yeah. Those questions still need to be answered if that scenario is real. And if that scenario isn't real and she actually was home and she was living downstairs, then the question still goes to, how did you not hear anything? Now, I know that we have had at least one person, and this is still a very unverified story, come out and claim that he used to live there. And lived in the bottom floor room claims that you really can't hear anything. But then we have other people who have been living in that house and have been in that house claiming that it's old and rickety and how could you not hear anything? So regardless, these questions need to be answered by Bethany and these questions need to be answered by Dylan. When I said, let's go back in time, what I want to discuss is not only, again, for the who knows how manyth time, the 8-hour delay, but also the fact that there was no blood trail found outside of the house. I need someone to explain to me, and we're going based off of what the cops are telling us when it comes to the timeline, okay? Someone explain to me how someone can be attacking 4 people in a 3-story home in the dark with a knife. We hear that there's blood literally everywhere, but somehow this assailant, this ninja star master, just happened to kill 4 people with his hands with a blade and leave the house without any blood trail being found by canines. And you know how I know that they still, at least to the public at least, because there's really no telling what they know that they haven't told us. But I know that the route of the person who did this has still not been verified. They cannot confirm whether it was the sliding back door or if it was the front door or if it was a window. Honestly, they have no idea. All they know is that Dylan claims that she saw someone dressed in black with a mask at around a certain time, but it's never verified that she saw this person leaving the house. All we have to verify anything is a 4:17 timestamp audio from a house 50 feet away that picked up the dog barking and voices and whimpering and a thud. Now, the thud could have been a door being slammed shut. I highly doubt that a house 50 feet away from another house can pick up a body hitting the floor, unless it was slammed down like in a wrestling match. That's very highly unlikely. This has been driving me absolutely insane from the beginning, because we already know this was no frozen shock phase situation. None of us are stupid. And for anybody who's going to sit here and actually believe that, I'm going to leave my comments about that to myself. Before we had a suspect, I questioned this so hard because it makes no sense to me. Yes, there was an 8-hour window between what we are assuming the time is that this happened and whenever the 911 call was made. But that is not enough to clean up an outside area of what a canine could pick up in way of foreign scent or blood. And now I know it's a party house, so there not being a scent found outside the house really isn't a big deal. But the fact that there was no blood scent found outside of the house is a big deal. Because the timing that we're being told, there's no way that whoever did this, and even if it was Bryan, there's no way that if Bryan did this, that he was able to clean the blood off of himself well enough for there not to have been some sort of scent of blood trail left. Where'd it go? And since it's not there, why is it not there? Now, I hope that there's been some new things happening in this case, and that these questions can be answered, or maybe something else was found. Because I am not convinced that someone can stab 4 people and leave no blood trail. Not just outside, but not even leading to the door that they took to exit? So even if he would have, even if the blade would have been wiped off against a shirt or cleaned off on someone else's property that lived into the house, you're telling me that with 4 people and blood apparently all over this place like a horror movie, this person left the house with no blood on their clothes to leave a trail behind? That makes no sense.